The Israeli army says its ground forces are expanding their activity in the Gaza Strip as it moves closer to a full-on ground invasion of the besieged territory. Today is Saturday, October 28th, 2023, and this is the Dunkley Report. The Israeli army says its ground forces are expanding their activity in the Gaza Strip as it moves closer to a full-on ground invasion of the besieged territory. Internet and phone services collapsed Friday in Gaza under intensified Israeli bombardment, largely cutting off its 2.3 million people from the outside world and each other. Israel has amassed hundreds of thousands of troops along the Gaza border. The expected ground offensive is aimed at uprooting the Hamas militant group in response to its bloody incursion on October 7th. Explosions from airstrikes lit up the Gaza sky Friday night. Casualties from new airstrikes could not be immediately known in the information blackout. Israel has knocked out communications in the Gaza Strip with bombardment and artillery fire. Explosions from continuous airstrikes overnight Friday and into Saturday lit up the sky over Gaza City for hours. The Israeli military says it is expanding ground operations in the territory. On Friday, the UN General Assembly called for a humanitarian truce in Gaza, while protesters in New York and Jakarta held demonstrations calling for an end to Israeli military action. The Palestinian death toll in Gaza has passed 7,300, and in the occupied West Bank, more than 100 Palestinians have been killed. More than 1,400 people in Israel have been killed, and 229 people were taken hostage during the incursion and remain in captivity in Gaza. The man wanted in the mass shooting at a bowling alley and bar that killed 18 people and wounded 13 has been found dead, bringing an end to a search that put the entire state of Maine on edge for the last 2 days. Authorities say Robert Card was found dead Friday in Lisbon Falls, Maine. Maine Department of Public Safety Commissioner Mike Sawchuk says Card was found at 7:45 p.m. near the Androscoggin River of an apparent self-inflicted gunshot. He declined to provide a specific address. Card was a trained firearms instructor who recently had been treated for mental health issues. The 18 people killed in 2 mass shootings in Lewiston, Maine, included a 14-year-old bowler, a shipbuilder who loved playing the game of cornhole, and a sign language interpreter. Bill Young, 44, of Winthrop, had taken his 14-year-old son, Aaron, to play in a youth bowling league at Just-in-Time Recreation. Peyton Brewer Ross was a dedicated pipe fitter at Bath Iron Works who left behind a partner, young daughter, and friends. Joshua Seal, a sign language interpreter, was shot and killed while playing in a cornhole tournament at Shemingi's Bar with other members of the deaf community. Joe Walker was the bar manager. Former President Donald Trump is set to testify November 6th in the civil business fraud case against him, following testimony from his 3 eldest children. State lawyers disclosed the schedule in court Friday, when the judge ruled that the former president's daughter Ivanka also must take the stand. It was already expected that the ex-president and sons Donald Jr. and Eric would testify, but the timing became clear. Friday. The schedule sets up a blockbuster stretch of the trial of New York Attorney General Letitia James's lawsuit. She alleges that the former president overstated his wealth for years on financial statements. The ex-president denies any wrongdoing. The Pentagon says U.S. fighter jets launched airstrikes early Friday on 2 locations in eastern Syria linked to Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps. The strikes come in retaliation for a slew of drone and missile attacks against U.S. bases and personnel in the region that began early last week. They reflect the Biden administration's determination to maintain a delicate balance. The U.S. wants to hit Iranian-backed groups suspected of targeting the U.S. as strongly as possible to deter future aggression, while also working to avoid provoking a wider conflict. The U.S. does not have any information yet on casualties or an assessment of damage from Friday's strikes. About 2 in 3 Americans say their household expenses have risen over the last year, but only about 1 in 4 say their income has increased in the same period. That's according to a new poll from the Associated Press NORC Center for Public Affairs Research. As household expenses outpace earnings, many are expressing concern about their financial futures. What's more, for most Americans, household debt is rising or not going away. About half say they currently have credit card debt. 4 in 10 are dealing with auto loans, and about 1 in 4 have medical debt. Just 15% say their household savings have increased over the last year. Desperate families are making missing posters and joining online groups to find loved ones out of touch since Hurricane Otis devastated the Mexican Pacific coast city of Acapulco. Officials say they are moving in supplies and getting people out of the devastated city of 1 million. Cell phone signals are returning to some parts of the city. Many residents are looking for relatives with the help of friends and relatives living in other parts of Mexico and the United States. They are sharing information and searching for the missing. President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping have agreed to meet on the sidelines of next month's Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in San Francisco. That's according to a U.S. official familiar with the planning. The official, who was not authorized to comment publicly and spoke on the condition of anonymity, said the two sides worked out an agreement in principle to hold a meeting during the summit. The agreement was worked out as Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi met Friday with Secretary of State Antony Blinken and White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. The official added that two sides have not worked out details on the exact day of the meeting, venue, and other logistics. Pope Francis has ordered the Vatican to reopen the case of a well-known priest-artist accused of sexually, psychologically, and spiritually abusing adult women. The Vatican says Francis has removed the statute of limitations on their claims to allow a canonical trial to proceed. The announcement came just a day after the case of the Reverend Marko Ivan Rupnik again made headlines when a diocese in his native Slovenia confirmed it had welcomed him after he was expelled by his Jesuit order this summer. A Vatican statement said Pope Francis' Abuse Prevention Commission had flagged serious problems in the way the case was handled, prompting Francis to act. Today's news was reported by the Associated Press. This has been the World News for Saturday, October 28, 2023. Thanks again for joining us at The Dunkley Report.